You're watching our special edition of India Global, focusing on the 1,000 days of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. What next can happen in this war? What are the possible options on the table when Donald Trump comes into Oval Office in 2 months from now? And what are the peace negotiations that India can possibly offer is what we'll try and deep dive into. All right, let me quickly now introduce the panelists. Joining me, Professor Ummu Salma Bava, who's the chairperson of the Center for European Studies. Joining me from JNU, geopolitical analyst from Moscow, Sergei Strokan, and Niklas Swanstrom joining me live from Stockholm. He is the director of ISDP. In fact, Stockholm is one of the countries that joined NATO after the Ukraine-Russia conflict started. And in fact, Niklas, let me start with you. As things stand right now, we are talking on a day when an intercontinental ballistic missile has been fired by Russia, and on a day when Ukraine has also gone ahead and fired the missiles, the long-range missiles that US finally green-lighted it to. Where is this war headed?
Well, it's heading to a very difficult position. I mean, we see an escalation from both sides that is definitely not leading to a long-term peace and or in the right direction. So I do think that it's we're facing well, further tension and a much more difficult situation to resolve over time.
And you know, Sergei, let me then ask you this. You know, you bring the view as far as Moscow is concerned. When we speak today, 1,000 days after the conflict, it looks like a possible solution is now much farther than what it was possibly when the quote-unquote 3-day military operation started.
Yeah, thank you for that question. But if you allow me just 30 seconds, I want briefly to respond a couple of observations over what I had in your preview report. Well, I can hardly agree that Russia has become a pariah state during this 1,000 years. Yes, the West has tried its level best to isolate Russia, but Russia has dramatically expanded its relations with non-Western world. China, India, Brazil, you've seen BRICS summit in Kazan last month. What isolation you are talking about? It's really laughable. I'm puzzled and who is writing those reports and why you disseminated that. However, let us not get involved in a blame game, as it's pretty tense and tough here now, absolutely.
It has been fired, right?
Yeah.
ICBM has been fired. So are you trying to tell me that this war is closer to a possible solution than what it was before?
No, what I suggest not to get involved in blame game and spreading, you know, just cliche, ideological cliche. But of course, what is clear now that this conflict is coming to its climax. These days is coming to its climax, and probably the world has come to really very close to the threat of nuclear war. You see that Russia has unveiled its new nuclear doctrine, which dramatically expands the number of cases in which nuclear arms can be used. And you know that, well, as a sort of, I don't know how to describe it. Probably it's a provocation or define Russia's doctrine. But anyway, you know that Ukraine has already launched those strikes using long-range missiles. Technically speaking, if we analyze the situation, it falls in line with Russia's nuclear doctrine, you know, and it enables Russia to respond with nuclear strikes. So everybody here, yesterday and today, people are asking what comes next. Are we going to make this strike or not? And believe me, it's pretty tense here. And
Mr. Strokan, I gave you more than 30 seconds, sir, uninterrupted. Yeah. But let me ask this to Niklas, and then I get in Professor Bava as well. Niklas, you heard what the view from Moscow is, which is that this war may be coming towards an end, not because of any other reason, but because the threat of a nuclear escalation is very real. How do you view this sitting in Stockholm, given the fact that your country has also moved into NATO in the last 2 years because it felt that that's the only way it can protect against Russian aggression?
Well, I think that proves that the Swedish decision and the Finnish decision was correct. We need to join NATO to defend our own security. And I think this is also why NATO is growing, because the Russian threat of nuclear attacks. But I mean, I do hope that there's a possibility to find, of course, I mean, Russia knows this as well. If they use nuclear weapons on Ukraine, even countries that are, well, like-minded or closer to Russia will, of course, react very, very strongly. So the nuclear option should not be an option. I do hope that there's a possibility to find a peaceful way out of this, even if I'm rather pessimistic, and I think it's going to take a long time. But the nuclear threat from Moscow is everything else than constructive.
Okay. Let me then bring in Professor Bava on the fact that now when one talks about peace, one hears Global South and New Delhi that much more often, simply because of its ability to be able to have those communication channels live and robust. How significant are those communication channels, Professor Bava, in being able to possibly even start a process with regard to peace?
I think when a war is on, one has to keep in mind that channels of communication always have to be kept open. Ultimately, a war in the most decisive way will only be concluded at a negotiating table. So I think to that extent, all parties will welcome any possibility of communication which will exist or which is available to them. That's point one. In the case of India, I think we are in a situation due to historical reasons and current engagements where we are able to talk to both sides, both to Russia and to Ukraine. And I think that is extremely significant in terms of being able to at least keep these channels of communication open. That's the second point. A third thing is on the role that one can play. A role depends both on what we can bring to the table, but also more importantly, one should not forget that it is the parties to war which will have to see whether they are willing to engage and have that.
No, they're willing to engage with India. They are willing to have India fill that kind of vacuum that exists in the global world order.
Absolutely. I think that the concerns India has brought the concerns of the global south, and what an extended war of 3 years means, not just to the two concerned countries, but it's a war which impacts globally. And I think in that extent, the concerns of the global south have been taken forward by Prime Minister Modi, to both the leaders in both the countries.
Yes.
So I think it is about conveying, first is about the sentiments and offering also whatever good offices the Prime Minister and India can bring to the table. So I think to that extent, it's extremely important in the light of the recent visit of the Prime Minister,
Indeed.
Both to Moscow and to Kiev.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is also set to be in India. Dates are yet to be announced, but the fact that he is going to be in India on a visit is also extremely important. Let me then bring in the two sides from Europe and Russia to essentially talk about the fact that there is going to be a change of guard in the US in about 2 months from now. Ahead of that, Niklas, do you think it was wise and prudent on the part of US to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles and attack deep inside Russian territory, giving further fodder to the Russian war machinery, that the fact that they must respond to an act of aggression that they feel is elevated than earlier?
Well, I think that we should have allowed this a long time ago. I mean, we should have given the Ukrainians all the tools they deserve to have to defend themselves. I mean, we tend to forget that Russia attacked Ukraine, invaded a sovereign state. So for me, this is finally a moment that we can actually give the Ukrainians the tools. And as a European, I think that I'm looking forward to peace, of course, but not the peace on equal terms. So what we need to do is to support Ukraine against the Russian invasion.
Comes into when Donald Trump comes into Oval Office on 20th of January, some of these decisions that President Biden has taken will hold water then as well?
No, I think President Trump will change a lot.
Don't you think that will
we
do
don't
more
know what
damage
he
to
will
Ukraine?
change.
This flip-flop?
It's not going to benefit Ukraine. I mean, as I said, we should have done this earlier. We should have done it a year ago, maybe, given an ability. But of course, hopefully this improves a bit of the Ukrainian positions if there will be a negotiation initiated by Trump.
All right.
So in that regard, it could be useful, but too late, I would say, if we gave them this possibility.
Okay, let me give one last word very quickly to the Russians as well. India has always been neutral. We want to stay that way. Very quickly, Mr. Sergei.
I'm quite disappointed with the comment of my Swedish colleague that Russia is involved in nuclear saber rattling. It's totally untrue. Let me repeat it once again. We are provoked. We were provoked yesterday, we were provoked today, and it looks like we would be provoked tomorrow. So what are the options for us? You guys are leaving no options for us. Please read again our new nuclear doctrine, which says that if we attack by a non-nuclear state, which is supported by a nuclear state, it gives us enables us to respond, and in a very strong way. Please read it.
Okay. On that note, I'm afraid I have to end this. And if this discussion is any indication of the fact that there is no possible solution in sight right now, unless it's a negotiated settlement. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining me on this very special broadcast. And thank you so much, viewers, for tuning in to this very special edition of India.